Good morning, everyone. Today, we'll be starting with a new chapter in geography, and that is agriculture. As you know, that 60%, approximately 60 to 70% of the Indian population is still engaged in agriculture. They are engaged in farming. So now we'll be discussing about the various types of farming techniques, how farming is done in India. What are the techniques through which crops are produced in India. So particularly if we talk about types of farming methods, they are of three types: primitive subsistence farming, intensive subsistence farming, and commercial farming. Now, if we talk about primitive subsistence farming, it includes farming, it is a kind of farming which is done on a very primary level, meaning this type of farming, it particularly depends on monsoons. Even the tools which we use are the most basic ones and less labor is involved. Apart from that, whenever, after growing one season crop on one patch of land, what the farmers do, they leave it and they start farming on the another patch of land. That is also called slash and burn technique, right? So if we talk about primitive subsistence farming, it is a slash and burn agriculture. Another name for primitive subsistence farming is slash and burn agriculture. Now, what do farmers do? They clear a patch of land and produce cereals and other food crops. When the soil fertility decreases, what they do? They leave that patch of land and they find a fresh patch of land. They clear it and they use that patch of land for cultivation, whereas the previous one is left for a period of 1 year so that it can regain its natural fertility. It is known by different names in different parts of the country. It is also known as jhuming in northeastern states. Now, since we are doing production on small patches of land, apart from that, less labor is involved, and the tools which we are using are of very primary level. So the productivity in this kind of agriculture is low. Also, we depend on monsoon, right? This type of farming, it depends on monsoon, and it is practiced in very few parts of India, right? So we have talked about three kinds of farming methods: primitive, intensive, and commercial, among which we have discussed primitive subsistence farming. Primitive subsistence farming means it's a kind of slash and burn agriculture, right? What do the farmers do? They clear a patch of land, they use it for cultivation. When they feel that the soil fertility is decreasing, they leave that patch of land and they find another fresh patch of land for cultivation, right? Means they are not using any kind of chemical fertilizers in it. Instead, they are leaving that particular portion of land so that it can gain its natural fertility. Now, this type of farming technique is practiced but in very few parts of India. Intensive subsistence farming. Now, in intensive subsistence farming, the farmer cultivates a small plot of land using simple tools and more labors, right? Now, what is the difference between primitive and intensive? In primitive, the farmers depended on monsoon, but here irrigation facilities are available. And apart from that, right, they try to make the soil fertile by adding biochemicals to them, by adding you can say animal manures to them, right? They particularly depend on animal manure to make the soil fertile. So in intensive subsistence farming, The farmer cultivates a small plot of land using simple tools and more labors. Farmers use their small land holdings to produce enough for their local consumption, while the remaining produce is used for exchange against other goods. The type of farming is practiced in areas of high population pressure on land. It is labor intensive farming where high doses of biochemical inputs and irrigation are used for higher production. So, if you consider this line, this is the very difference between primitive and intensive subsistence farming. In intensive subsistence farming, for increasing the fertility of the soil, for making soil more productive, we were leaving that patch of land, right? We were depending on regaining the natural fertility of the soil. But if we talk about intensive subsistence, we are adding biochemical inputs, and also there the farmers were dependent on they were dependent on monsoon weather. Over here they are dependent on irrigation facilities which are available. That is why production is slightly better in comparison to primitive subsistence farming, but still not enough. Now, what is commercial farming? This type of farming, it uses higher doses of modern inputs. Now, it's a completely commercial. For business purpose, farming is done. Now, for business purpose, when they are doing farming, they are putting a lot of pressure on land. They are even not caring about the fertility of the soil. They are, high yielding variety of seeds are used that are your HYV seeds, your chemical fertilizers, your intense insecticides, pesticides. All the chemical input is there. Though they are increasing the soil productivity, though they are increasing the crop productivity, but somewhere soil fertility is damaged. The natural fertility of the soil is damaged. Though production is very much, production is 3 times better in comparison to the intensive subsistence farming, but still the soil fertility is decreased. And it is highly practiced in India. Commercial farming is highly practiced in India, especially in parts of Haryana and Punjab. Plantation is a type of commercial farming in which a single crop is grown on a large area, right? A single crop over a large area. Plantations cover large tracts of land using capital intensive inputs with the help of migrant laborers. All the produce is used as a raw material in industries. Tea, coffee, rubber, sugarcane, banana, right? These are the commercial crops which help us in gaining profits, right? That is why the term capital intensive inputs are used. Capital means money, right? Now class, what you will do is, we have studied about 3 types of farming techniques. Now what you are going to do is, you will read this chapter first. Go through the chapter thoroughly and draw a mind map for it, right? Draw the mind map for the chapter. And if you have any confusion in these 3 kinds of farming techniques, you can raise your questions in the WhatsApp group. Thank you.